you have an interest in horses and love learning more about horses, the horse industry, teaching, or even managing your own horse business, then you're in the right place. We would love you to join us on our mission, which is to improve the lives of horses around the world through the education of riders, handlers, and trainers. So get comfortable, listen in, and enjoy.
This is another of our popular Listener's Choice interviews, which we're playing over the weekend. We've chosen the most popular interviews for you to select the Listener's Choice winner. If you're not sure how the Listener's Choice competition works, have a look at horsechats.com/choice for the rules and the leaderboard. Horse welfare and safety are of utmost importance where humans have any interaction with horses. Within the courses at International Horse College, we only utilise methods that promote safe and humane ways of interaction between horses and humans. We only support safe methods of educating riders, handlers and trainers about horse welfare. internationalhorsecollege.com, registered training organisation 31352. Today's guest is a repeat guest. Michelle Strapp has been here before. Now, for those of you who know Michelle, she's an international show jumping trainer, coach, competitor. She was on episode number 32, and then she came back, voted in as a popular Listener's Choice episode as 197. So we're lucky to have her back again today. Now, she's going to talk about 10 truths of the mysterious half halt. Are you there, Michelle? How are you today?
I'm good, thank you.
Michelle, this is a really big, broad subject, okay? And it's to people that start to learn about riding, it's like it's mysterious. They don't know how to get it. They don't know how to achieve it. And it's very mysterious. So why did you pick this particular subject?
Oh, I think it's a subject that I cover a lot when I start clinics and I ask people, what do you understand about a half halt? And everybody gives a different answer.
Yes.
How do you do it? I generally get a different answer. So I don't find their understanding or the clarity of a half halt is very clear. And sometimes they get it very complicated. So as I say to them, if it's that complicated to you, it must be really complicated to a horse.
Okay.
So I think, I like to break it down to make it a subject that people can learn rather than it be so mysterious.
Yes. All right, so can we start off then, and we've got 10 points about this, but the first one, the FEI definition.
Okay, well, everyone can get the FEI definition online, so that's an easy one, but I'll shorten that, and it's the half halt is a coordination of feet, legs and hands almost at the same time, and the transitions should be invisible, which are prepared by the invisible half halt. So that is the ultimate half halt.
Okay.
So it's a coordination of aids, yes.
Yep. And for those people that can't find that, we might have a look and see if we can get that and put it on Michelle's page, which would be horsechats.com/Michelle Strapp 2. Now, you've given us the FEI definition. What is it in plain English?
Well, actually, the FEI definition is actually quite plain English. It is a combination of basic aids. The aids applied correctly at the right moment, the horse will go to a new level of balance. But that is where the grey area starts for people. It's not that black and white, because teaching a half halt is lots of variables will be taken place with your horse, under your horse and with your position that actually makes that a little bit more complicated. So that's when it comes back to how do we explain it. So the definition is correct.
Okay.
The ingredients to get that is what is complicated.
All right. Now, what about when people understand it? Is it important? Is it something that we can just ignore that because it's not important, especially if we're doing show jumping or something? Is it important to understand?
Oh, totally.
Okay.
If someone doesn't understand a half halt, then basically they can't get the ultimate out of a horse's balance. The necessity of understanding, yes.
Yep. So within a half halt, and I think you said the seat, legs and hand, how much hand do we need?
Well, with the hand, the thing with the hand is people have got to, which I'll explain, how we're going to develop to know how much hand and how much leg, because that is the grey area again. When I ask people how much hand and how much leg, they actually have no idea of that. So they say, take a bit, take a lot. So they've got no clarity in that. And I'd like to make that a little bit clearer in how I teach that. But in a simple term, that the horse with the hand must always believe the door is open. So it has to have some harmony and understanding of the hand. And if the horse feels that the hand is much stronger and it's forward thinking, then there is never a half halt.
Okay.
It's a blockage. It's always a stop and start. It's not a half halt.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
So the horse's thought of going forward needs to be a percentage stronger than coming back. So that is sophistication of hand and how much hand
Yep.
in a half halt.
All right. So if we've got the horse going forward, how much leg do we need in the half halt?
Well, again, and I'll also explain how I'm going to suggest to the amount of leg. But with the first most important part with leg is the horse actually understands leg. For a horse to understand leg is to help a horse create impulsion. And impulsion for a horse is the mental thought of going forward. Mm-hmm. So then how do people clarify impulsion? This is what we need. So impulsion is how a rider knows that the horse has impulsion is because they have a natural zest to go forward. That means the rider does not need to kick them every stride. So if they are kicking the horse every stride and motivate the horse to go forward, there won't be a half halt because the horse is not naturally going forward. So if you close on a horse, you're kicking every stride, you're closing nothing. You're closing a horse that doesn't want to go in the first place. So that is not a half halt.
All right. Now,
so
I was going to say, if you were going to define impulsion, now I know we're talking about the half halt today, but if we were going to just define impulsion, just in a couple of words, what would you say?
I'd say with impulsion is that the rider can be silent in their driving aids for a very short time and feel that the horse wants to take you forward. It's a feeling that it wants to give you forward thinking. You may have to teach it that because it falls behind your leg. Then it's a quick reminder to the horse it must stay in front of your leg. But if your aids are silent and you feel like the horse is wanting to take you forward, then it is creating some impulsion because it is a natural zest for them to go forward. Good. It's not us nagging. That is not impulsion.
Yes. And I think you were going to say something else about the leg we need in the half halt as well.
Yes. Well, let's go back to teaching a half halt now. We've got into teaching a half halt and you can understand. Okay, so when it comes down to the amount, where I like to start half halt in teaching, so horses and riders can get an idea of a half halt is obviously starting transitions. And I like to do a lot of either half transition or, first of all, starting transitions within a pace. So as a rider is in a pace, let's say the trot, we have what we call rhythm, which everyone I'm sure understands, which is the evenness of the pace. Then we have tempo. Tempo is the speed of the legs. They're two different things, rhythm and tempo. Tempo is the speed of the legs. So for a rider to start doing the half transitions, what they do is lengthen and shorten the trot. So they go to shorten the trot and they start to use the aids for a first part of a half halt, which is waiting with the body, waiting with the shoulders, and reading with a little unyielding hand, ask the horse to shorten the pace. And as they feel the tempo change, the tempo gets slower, that will give them an indication of how much leg they need at that point. They need enough leg to keep the tempo the same. So the riders and horses become regular in the pace. That gives them a tool to understand how much leg. So if the horse's tempo gets very slow, that means they need a little bit more leg to keep the tempo up. If the horse goes to a walk, they need a little bit more leg to take it back into the trot or the tempo. And half transitions are the start of your half halt, and they should be thousands of them until you become your own metronome. Because if you don't have your metronome as a rider, it's really hard for you to do half halts. They all become half back. And I tend to like calling a half halt a half go, not a half halt. Because then it changes the rider's mentality of a half halt must be a forward thinking. It's a closing exercise. It's not a stopping exercise. A halt is a stopping as such if you want to halt, where it is standing still. But a very good halt is also done with a very forward thinking. So I tried to think a little bit in the training of the half halt. So we go into the half halt. We've already established the rhythm and tempo to a steady contact. And we go into the half halt, and then we ask the horse to shorten the step, and we read the tempo, and then we come out of the half halt.
Okay.
If the tempo gets slow, we like to come out of the halt.
Okay. Yep. All
That's
right.
for the mounted leg.
Okay. Now you've talked about the rhythm and tempo and explained that. You also said a word metronome. Now people may not understand. Can you, and I know that we're talking about half halt, but just an understanding, because there's words that are coming in that people may not understand. And I think if you can define them a little more, it takes some of the mysteriousness away from the half halt. So metronome.
Totally. Well, metronome is used for music.
Mm-hmm.
And you can actually get it on the phone. Some of my clients have told me you can download them, and they have a metronome that you can put to your phone, which is trot or canter, and it's the beat.
Yep.
So it'll create a beat, like a music beat, and the rhythm is the evenness of the beat, and the tempo is the speed of the beat. So a metronome is what people will listen to. And I'm not musical, so I'm not actually a very good music player. But I have been told by my students to use the metronome. That just goes bing, 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 bing. So as you sit up to shorten pace, you start to read the beat. So it's 1, 2. So if you're trotting and you're going 1, 2, 1, 2, and then you go to shorten, which is quite common, you see. People go to shorten and it starts to go 1, 2.
Yes.
So it starts to drone on.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm.
Instead of the beat staying the same as you lengthen short. So the metronome, if you have it, eventually as a rider, you feel it. You hear it, you feel it. And as you're more and more experienced, that's why as the more experience you have, to green a rider is that you can feel exactly what the horse is doing under you.
Okay.
And that's what produces a half halt. And that's if you have a few basic tools. And my tools I like to give my students are tools that they start to know what the horse is doing under them, because your aids are only going to be constructive if they relate to what the horse is doing. If they're opposite to what the horse is doing because they're just an aid, they're of no use to you or the horse. So the more that you understand where the horse's feet are falling, where his body's going, and what speed the legs are travelling at, the amount of leg becomes more meaning to you. Because you're starting to understand the instrument you're sitting on, basically.
Good. Now there is a link to that. There is a metronome app too, and we'll put that in the in your page. Okay, but now we've talked about the half halt, the preparation for the half halt.
Preparation for half halt. Well, you'd like to classify as the preparation for the half halt is the half halt.
Okay.
So the half halt prepares to many things. The preparation, I'd say, you could put it another way. The preparation for half halt is when you talk about the understanding of a half halt and the sophistication of a half halt, what we try and do to prepare to teach people a half halt is your aids, I like to think, as the alphabet. So when you teach people how much hand is needed, how much leg is needed, what their horse is doing under them, how much position is needed, and their understanding of this, that's like their alphabet. So the preparation for a good half halt is learning the alphabet to the horse and the horse understanding the aids, trying to spell it out to the horse so you have a language. And then once you get to the FEI definition of a half halt, basically you're writing a sophisticated essay. So if you can break it down into very small bite-sized pieces and understand the lengthening and shortening of a horse and the coordination of your aids to do that, the half halt becomes part of that. So that's your training is your preparation for a half halt.
Okay, good. Now, if we're riding and we think we've got the half halt, how do we know that we've got an established half halt? How do we know that we've got it?
Well, that'll change at many different levels. Okay, so as you become more experienced, and even if you've been riding 40 years, you're always amazed that your half halt improves again.
Yes.
So that will become more sophisticated as you go along. One of the best feelings of a horse when the half halt comes through, the horse becomes an ease of movement. You start to feel that the horse is moving a lot easier under you, and there's a lot greater flow of pace. So the horse finds it easier to come to follow across the ground. So that becomes, rather than stopping and starting and a little bit jerky. And so what I find when I'm teaching the half halt, especially at the trot and the canter, that people start to feel how they can go from a shorter canter to a bigger canter without feeling a few stalling, like stalling a car in between. It's a lot smoother to go into a pace shorter pace and out of a pace. That is the start of a feel of half halt.
Mm-hmm.
And then it will become more sophisticated from there and will be able to create greater balance within a horse. But that is the first start. It's a lot smoother from one pace into another pace, and also within a pace, very much so.
Okay. So you've talked about them, the transition from one to another and within the pace. Is it half halt only for within the pace or transitions? Is it for anything else as well?
The half halt is at many levels. You may be half halting every stride, depending on your horse's balance.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as you feel that the horse's balance, you're losing the horse's balance, they will become a half halt.
Okay.
So that's why when to do a half halt becomes more sophisticated as you become more and more aware of what your horse is doing underneath you. So as you are travelling down a hill, if you're on bad ground, if you are, the horse becomes too slow, or the horse becomes long, or the horse you want to transition, the half halt is part of your ride, basically, to very, very different dimensions. Yeah.
All right. So we talked a little bit about what the horse should feel like if the half halts are working, but you're a show jumper. Is this just a dressage exercise? Is it a show jumping exercise? Tell us a little bit about half halts and jumping courses.
Well, a lot of horses are bred to jump, and they're wonderful jumpers. But what helps a horse jump the best fence is balance.
Mm-hmm.
So your last 3 or 4 strides to a fence, if the horse has beautiful balance over the ground, it is going to give you a better fence. So what is going to create a better balance as we're travelling around a corner are your half halts. Your half halts are there continuously with a jumping horse. Some horses are a little bit more difficult jumping horses, so it's a little bit harder sometimes at pace with the half halt. So that not quite as easy as when a horse is in a dressage test, because we're galloping and turning. But absolutely, the half halt is important. It's very important to the training and the basic training, and very important for preparation for a fence.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
It's riding. Doesn't matter whether you do quarter horses, it's riding.
Yes.
Balance.
Yes.
So that's what we're trying to do. It's all about balance. If you break it all down, it's they say, it's mysterious, but the only part that's mysterious is you can't feel a horse's balance.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Because that is what a half hold, half go, that is all you're trying to do, is put the horse's body and legs in a way that it can give the best balance to you.
Okay.
And that's what you've got to learn. Yeah.
If you're an equestrian coach or a horse riding instructor, or even if you aspire to be one, have a look at the free video series for horse riding instructors on the Horse Chats website. Go there now, have a look, horsechats.com. And throughout this, you've talked about enough leg to keep the tempo the same, which is going to vary for every horse. You've talked about when. You've said some horses you need it this often. So obviously this half halt is going to vary between every horse that you ride.
Well, the dimension of it will vary. So if you have a hot thoroughbred that has really fast legs, and its tempo is too fast, and then obviously then you wouldn't need as much leg. So it's what with the horse you're riding is just learning, first of all, to read the rhythm.
Mm-hmm.
That's the first thing. So your first understanding is keeping the rhythm even all the time. So whether you lengthen or you shorten, whether it's perfect speed at this stage, that's the second area that you'll cover. The most important thing is you learn to keep the rhythm even. And then once you learn to keep the rhythm even within your paces, as you're shortening and lengthening, then you can put tempo into the story. But the main thing is to keep it even. So you have to keep the evenness of the pace, and then the reason that you're aware of tempo, if the tempo gets too fast or too slow. So you've just got to remember that's the speed of the legs, which is the speed of the rhythm. Okay, so you decide a speed that you want to travel on, and then you try and keep that rhythm the same. And that is part of coordinating rhythm with tempo. And that is the first stage. And every horse has a different rhythm and tempo.
Perfect.
So it's depending on how much it's an elevation.
Yep. Yep. Michelle, I think that's been a really good explanation. So hopefully, if listeners have got a problem with the half halt, and it is mysterious, but Michelle's done it pretty much in plain English. She's gone over the FEI definition. She's then explained it in plain English. She's talked about the age. She's also talked about how they're going and talked about the rhythm, the tempo, using a metronome. She's talked about it varying within each horse, about preparing, establishing. She's also talked about what the horse should feel like and when to use that within a show jumping course. So, Michelle, I think you've explained quite a fair bit about it, quite a bit more than just the FEI definitions. And obviously, coaching a lot and teaching a lot of people about half halts. If people have got questions, how can they contact you about this?
I'm on my website, so they can send me an email.
Okay.
So they can send me an email, and I'm very happy to answer any questions on the half halt or difficulties they're having, or they can come back through you and have a particular subject of the half halt they'd like to discuss.
Perfect.
And we could discuss that, so if they have something they want to talk about.
Okay, no, that's really good. And those details will be on Michelle's page, which will be horsechats.com/Michelle Strapp 2, or just go to horsechats.com and search for Michelle. You'll find Michelle Strapp on there. She's been on episode 32 and then came back for Listener's Choice on 197. Thank you, Michelle. Appreciate your expert advice on this mysterious half halt, and I'm sure that a lot of our listeners will appreciate that as well. So thank you. Bye-bye.
Okay, pleasure.
If you've enjoyed this chat, then please comment, rate and subscribe. If you'd like any changes or recommendations for guests, then please contact us through horsechats.com. And while you're online, have a look at the government-accredited courses at internationalhorsecollege.com. Registered Training Organisation 31352.
Remember that our comments and instructions are general in nature and do not take into consideration your individual horses or your individual ability and circumstances. If you enjoyed this podcast, then please leave your comment below.